And now, here to let you know there is no perfect movie, here is Tyler Wolff.
Thank you, Caleb. What's going on, everybody? I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that Widows is no perfect movie. And it follows four women played by Viola Davis, Elizabeth Debicki, I'm not entirely sure, I apologize, Michelle Rodriguez, and Cynthia Erivo, who all decide that they need to pull off a robbery after their husbands, who were professional thieves, are killed in a botched job. All because their husbands stole from very powerful crime bosses played by Tyree Henry and Daniel Kaluuya. I was pretty excited for Widows when I first heard about it. It was the movie at TIFF that I was really pissed off that I hadn't gotten to see. Although now that I've seen A Star Was Born, I'm kind of pissed off I hadn't seen that either. But either way, I was really looking forward to it because of the casting, because of the fact that Steve McQueen is director and Gillian Flynn co-wrote the screenplay. Lots of talent behind and in front of the camera, and now that I've seen this movie, it definitely shows. This was a really good crime drama. But I should make something clear. If you're expecting a movie that is an equal amount of story and an equal amount of action, you are not going to get that in this movie. Despite what the trailers are advertising, and for the most part they still delivered on what they were promising, this is a strictly character-driven film that mostly revolves around the motivations of these characters, the people who we associate to be good and the ones we associate to be evil. And the movie is a very close examination of a huge amount of characters as to why they're in the position that they're in. And no pun intended here, but there are no characters with black or white morals. Every character is specifically gray in the fact that they make many questionable choices, but they have very identifiable reasons. And that's the reason that I kept watching for this movie, despite the fact that it does take a slow amount of time to introduce so many people and to wrap so many things up. And most of that works just because of the casting. Viola Davis, Elizabeth whatever her last name is, Michelle Rodriguez, Colin Farrell, Tyree Henry, Daniel Kaluuya, all do fantastic work in this film. Viola Davis, especially as the main widow, gets a lot of depth to her character when she realizes the kind of man her husband is, and in order to survive, she needs to learn the exact steps that her husband took to make sure that every job was pulled off. She puts the other widows through a lot of vigorous training over how they can be just as strong as the men are when they're holding people hostage or grabbing the money and running back and forth. There are so many details that she has to learn in order to be a successful leader. And the more sketchy aspects of her character are shown when she becomes more of a hard ass to the other team members, especially because she feels since her husband was the leader of the original team, she has to step up and enforce the other people to make sure that they're doing their jobs correctly. And when she realizes just how much pressure she's putting on the other women, she becomes much more identifiable to them, while also trying her best to keep her distance from them should anything go wrong. Colin Farrell's role surprised me quite a bit in this film, because when I heard that he was going to be a politician, I thought he might be another Trump allegory, but thankfully, he's his own specific character. He's someone who legitimately wants to do a lot of good for his community, and he also wants to distance himself from his father, played by Duvall, who was also a politician. And his arc in the film revolves around mainly how he wants his legacy to be completely independent from anybody else. And it connects with how the widows and the other crime bosses in this film all have very specific legacies that they either want to respect or completely leave in the past. And this actor wasn't one of my favorites in the movie initially, but on my way home I started thinking about him more and he quickly became one. And that was Daniel Kaluuya as the younger brother in the crime family, because as I was watching him on screen, he did give a good performance. He had a legitimately threatening presence, and he felt distinct from his roles in Get Out or Black Mirror or Black Panther. Wow. The thing that I thought about the most on my way home were the reasons he had for torturing and killing people. I mean, yeah, he did so because his brother ordered him to, but we see glimpses of his personal life where he watches or listens to black nationalists express their philosophies, and when I look back on his victims who were either white or black, he had personal ways of torturing them in regards to how and why. If they were white people, it was because he thought that they had a certain amount of power that they didn't deserve, or if they were black people who didn't either appreciate the privileges they were given or had too much power to begin with. And it's little details like that that make his character more subtle, at least for a henchman. And the heist sequences, as few as there are a lot of fun to watch. The cinematography and the music make each moment feel suspenseful. The choreography feels gritty enough to be like an independent movie, but energetic enough to feel like any Hollywood crime thriller you would see. The only real problem that I have is because so many characters are introduced, there are some loose ends that don't get tied up, mainly revolving around Brian Tyree Henry. He does give a good performance. His character is much more sophisticated and distinct from his role on Atlanta, but the ending, without giving anything away, doesn't really explain the circumstances that he's left with. And sure, we can imagine those circumstances for ourselves, but given the stakes that each character is given, I would have liked to have known a little bit more about him, especially because he is kind of built up as the main villain. All in all, I had a really good time with Widows, and I'm wondering if I'm going to see this film in theaters again. I'm not sure if I'm going to, but I would really like to. It has great performances, great direction and cinematography. The screenplay gives a lot of information without feeling expository, thankfully, and all in all, it was an equal amount of independent and Hollywood cinema, and for that reason, I'm going to give Widows a 4 out of 5. Well, guys, thank you very much for watching, and if you've seen Widows, what did you think about it? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and Caleb, tune us out.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more No Perfect Movie reviews.